I went back and watched that video today after, we heard it was the 5 year and we talked about the doubling the business, talked about the seed green big branding move that you were making right there before, COVID got in the way. I'm sure I'm interested to see how you had to pivot and with that change. Then the tracks on the Xerion, I think it was. What could you speak about the branding, the significant brand plans that you had that probably involved shows all over the place, and those were cut out immediately. How did you do with the branding you wanted to in a challenging time that COVID presented?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the first thing we had to do before we kind of started promoting the brand is to really understand what the brand was ourselves within our own company. Within North America, being somewhat fragmented before, we were now coming together. Our distribution was starting to see the pathway forward for having opportunities to come together. Not that we were overly forcing it, but giving them the opportunities. And yeah, we did have some, I would say, really quite cool marketing plans. We did have to pivot a little bit and do more electronic or virtual things, electronic mail, less participation in farm shows. And we learned a lot of things. We learned some things that work really, really well that we continue to do to this day. And we learned some other things that didn't work so well. Just to give you an example, I think non-intrusive touch points with customers on an infrequent basis is good, just as a reminder to let people know that you're there. I think another one that I continue to hold near and dear to my heart is participation in youth organizations like the FFA that we participate very heavily with. Some that didn't work so well would be like a virtual launch. I just don't think you get quite the oompa that you get when you've got people standing around a new forage harvester or something like that, and they get to touch it and kick the tires and all that you do when you're sitting on a screen. So again, we learned a lot of things. But back to the branding, I think when we finally did get through our supply chain issues from an industry standpoint, we were able to come back to work full force. We said, okay, now what are those things that we can kind of ramp up and go forward with? And I think this year, lots of different media channels, not so many that we can't keep track of them. You mentioned to me, I won't hold it against you, that you're a Wisconsin football fan and you happened to see at one of your games our name. And I had a farmer friend of mine, a friend now, I met him on a cruise ship one time, and we got to talking in the hot tub there. And he's from Indiana, and we traded emails, and he was at a Boilermaker game. He goes to every one of them, and he said, "Hey, when did you guys start advertising?" And so I see the KPIs, so the touch points or whatever from the data standpoint, but hearing those other things really mean that, hey, at least this person who had never heard of us before, or maybe only had heard of us in passing, now more truly understands what we are and what we're trying to do. So yeah, the marketing part of it really got going. And right now I would say it is at an all-time high for us.
Recap the differences in the class dealer distribution network 5 years ago up to today.
Well, there's a lot of faces that aren't at our dealer meetings anymore, and there's a lot of new faces. But there's a lot of, I would say we've had a number of dealers who have chosen different pathways. And I would say, and I'm quite proud of this, that, and you've seen it in the news with some of the dealers in the Midwest that we've been associated with for quite a number of years. It wasn't something where we said we're leaving or they said they're leaving. We really came to the conclusion after a number of conversations and soul searching that it was probably best for both of us. And one of the things that we agreed in every case was, we want to make sure that when we end this relationship, number one, that we take care of the customers together until we have a solution from the claw side, or you have a solution from your side, Mr. Dealer. But at the end of the day, we want you as a dealer to be successful. Whether or not you're carrying our brand, we have a relationship. It might be different in the future, but we have a relationship. And we want you to be as supportive in conversation or whatever and say, hey, Kloss wasn't a fit for us, but we still think that they were one of the better companies that we ever worked with. And to me, at the end of the day, that's really very important. I think the other thing too is we've been able to really fill a lot of the voids that were created with expansion from existing or remaining dealers, which is also a testament to the fact that those dealers that we do have really good alignment with, our alignment is such that they're willing to invest more. We're willing to invest more to help them be successful and to support them. So I think that, always this whole process is a case of, and it depends on who you talk to. Well, it's always research and development, or it's always production, or it's always marketing, or it's always dealers. It's always a combination of all those plus others. But I think that the dealer part of this is probably one of the most important, from my standpoint, one of the most important, because no matter what we do as a manufacturer, from concept through R&D, through production, purchasing, all that sort of stuff, everything that we do is going to go through a dealer partner of ours. And we want to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to support them in a way that they don't feel imposed upon. They want to do it. They feel like they're supported. And whenever we encounter a situation, I always look at it from the standpoint of between us as Kloss and our dealers. We want to make every situation either win-win or lose-lose. If we are going to win, we're going to win together. But if we have to bear some pain together, we have to do it in the same manner, connected and as partners.
What do your rooftops look like 2019 versus today, fall of 2024?
Yeah, in terms of rooftops, there are going to be, at least for an interim period, probably less rooftops than we had before. In the future, you'll probably see more rooftops. They may be smaller rooftops, and you're going to see more and more rooftops of trucks and of parts vans and things like that. And it really goes along one of the things that we've initiated is our farm point structure. And people sometimes say, well, gosh, you guys are getting into the retail business on your own. No, that's not the case. Our number one preferred way to market is through independent dealers, 100% of the time. However, there are cases where we can't find an independent dealer that either wants to partner with us or vice versa, or it's just not a good fit. We will look in some cases at joint ventures. If we have a dealer of ours that wants to expand, we may participate for a limited amount of time to get them up and running. And in some very extreme cases, we have set up our own retail operations, like in Nebraska and like in Saskatchewan. The farm point model really looks at this from two different vantage points, if you will. Number one is that it seeks to be lower capital investment in terms of fixed assets. So we don't have the, I would say, workshop space of one of our traditional locations. We do have the part space. Actually, it's probably expanded. No showroom or anything like that. It is very utilitarian in its purpose. But we are spending more money on remote service vehicles, on remote parts deliveries, those type things. Because if we look at it, there is a tremendous amount of infrastructure, and that is in terms of or in terms of customer shops and things like that. And we don't have to move the machine. We can work on it. The farmer doesn't have to go anywhere. And we can deliver parts to them when we have the parts. So the customer doesn't have to make 2 trips to get told that the dealer doesn't have the part and they're going to have to pay extra to get it. We're trying to eliminate some of those things. That's the one axis. The other axis of that is the ownership of that. We started out with our own ownership just because we want to look at it and how we can work on the processes, what's the customer interaction. But we not only want, but are expecting that the majority of the farm point locations in the future where they fit will be owned by independent third parties. And so that's what we're working toward, and that's what we're still working on. And we are taking it slow and methodical, because at the end of the day, one of the last things we looked at was the sales aspect of these locations. We first looked at parts and service, because if we can do that right, the sales part of it, I don't want to say it's an afterthought, but it comes naturally. or more naturally. So that is the big thing that we're working on now. And the good news is the first 2 locations that we got up and running are doing quite well. We've opened our 3rd location, and we've just announced we're opening locations 4 and 5 a little farther in the upper Midwest to take care of some of those areas that not now, but probably in the course of the next 6 to 18 months, we're going to need to take care of. So we'll continue down that pathway.
Bright days ahead, it looks like.
Very bright indeed.
Very good. Anything else you want to add while we're here?
No, I would just say to all of you out there, thank you for joining us. If you've never been to Germany, Hanover is the place to be.
Thank you, Eric, and thank you.